Welcome all hunters, anglers, trappers, and shooters to the only fish and wildlife conservation podcast that goes behind the scenes of the business of conservation, the Connecting with Conservation podcast. Our podcast is hosted by John Gassett from the Wildlife Management Institute and Jim Cucaruto of the Outdoor Stewards of Conservation Foundation. John and Jim will talk with experts from all sectors of the conservation arena about their passion for conserving the great outdoors. So please welcome our hosts of the Connecting with Conservation podcast, John and Jim.
Welcome to another episode of Connecting with Conservation. I'm your co-host, John Gassett with the Wildlife Management Institute, and I'm here with my fellow co-host, Jim Cucaruto from Outdoor Stewards of Conservation. Jim?
Hello, everybody. All right, so thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We've got another exciting episode of the Connecting with Conservation podcast, and something different we haven't talked about yet is the muzzleloader category, and our guest is, one of the coolest product lines and some new stuff, and like a very unique product that we're going to be talking about today. So we'll let Alison go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll get into the company.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for having us. We're so excited to be here today and to get to talk about traditions and muzzleloading and so much that goes into our company, but also the benefits, the conservation side. So I guess a little bit about me. I spent 13 years in this seat as the marketing manager, but I worked at Traditions before that. I worked in the warehouse. I worked in accounts receivable. While I was earning my college degree and my MBA and all that. So I've spent a lot of time here at the company, and it's not only a company, but it's also a personal enjoyment that I get to have by getting out in the outdoors, being able to hunt, being able to shoot. Although they always say, if you work in the outdoor industry, you don't hunt or shoot as much as you would think. So it is nice to be able to work in that environment every day and be around products I love and the environment I love and the industry I love. I know you guys had asked, what are my favorite pastimes and things. Obviously, spending time in the outdoors. We love boating. We love hiking. We love being outside, shooting, hunting, all of that stuff. So I live and breathe it every day, and then I do it when I go home as well. So it's truly a full circle situation for me. So.
Yeah, and I think we share the same state. I'm in Connecticut, right? And I believe Traditions is based out of Connecticut as well. And tell us the history about Traditions. And Connecticut used to be Gun Valley, not so much anymore, but you're still there, right?
Yes. Yep. No, we I did a project in 4th grade on Gun Valley, believe it or not. So it is a little bit, it is a little different today. But yeah, Traditions began in 1984. The current leadership took over in 1992 when they purchased the company, and they've really just taken it to what it is today. Traditions is located in Connecticut still. Old Saybrook is where we're headquartered right now. We do have an R&D facility in New Hampshire as well, but that I think allows us to have some ability to work also in an environment that is very supportive of hunting and outdoors and firearms. So that's another additional piece for us. But Traditions, I think, has done an amazing job of honoring traditional products. We still carry the side locks. We still carry build-it-yourself kits, cannons, all of those were historical pieces. But then we are really on the forefront of innovation when it comes to the Striker Fire in 2013. When we came out with that was innovative then, and then the Nitro Fire, and now the new Nitro Bolt. So Traditions really carries something for everybody in the muzzleloading industry, but then we also have products outside of that, like our Center Fire line. We import black powder revolvers and single action revolvers. We have a full line of accessories. So Traditions really has something for everybody, whether you're just a shooter who likes to go to the range and plink and use a black powder revolver or single action, or you're a hunter who's looking to get their next muzzleloader. We really do it all.
Awesome. Well, Alison, we saw you recently at SHOT, and you showed us a couple of products that I'm excited about. I'm one of those odd muzzleloader guys. I like the really, build it yourself kind of high end period pieces, and then the very ultra modern stuff. I don't do the in between. I'm not as interested in is I want something that's very effective or something that's really historical and cool. And in Kentucky, we had a guy, you may be familiar with the name, Herschel House, who was one of those period piece muzzleloader builders. He built all the muzzleloaders for the set of like the Patriot and a lot of the Revolutionary War stuff. And he's passed recently, but I actually got a DVD. I'm getting ready to build one of his rifles in the next few months. And but that's the old school stuff, the old flintlock stuff. Tell us about this newest rifle you've got on the market now that we saw it shot.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and just quickly to touch upon that, there are so many people out there that still enjoy using a side lock. I mean, Pennsylvania is a great example of a state that has the flintlock only season. And there are other states, like we just came out last year with the Shedhorn rifle, which was made for the Montana Heritage season. So there are states that are still prioritizing that primitive season. To flip onto the technology side of things, we can talk, I guess, I don't know if you want to jump into this now, but talk a little bit about the fire stick nitrofire technology. But that really has allowed us today to come out with the Nitro Bolt, which is the next iteration of that. So if you want me to dive into that a little bit, I can, or do you want me to just talk about Nitro Bolt?
Yeah, let's talk about both of them if you can.
Okay. Yeah. So Traditions standalone was working on a product very similar to what Fedra was developing at the same time. And, we thought, well, we make guns and you make ammo. So let's work, they wanted to work together. And we were like, yeah, absolutely. We're all about working with other companies to create great products. So we worked together, and along with the Hodgdon company as well, they helped out on this product immensely. So we developed the fire stick technology. The fire stick is an encapsulated powder charge. Previously, you would load bullet and powder from the muzzle. Now you still load your bullet and it comes down and it sits on a shelf inside that barrel. But then with like our break action series, you would break open the gun and you would insert your fire stick. It's factory loaded, so you're going to have that same load every single time. People don't sometimes realize that when they are loading a bullet on top of pelletized powder, you could seed it as gingerly as you try to, but there's always, unfortunately, possibly a little bit of crushing the pellet, just inadvertently. Therefore, your bullet's not sitting in the same spot every single time. We'd all like to say that we measure our powder exactly, but maybe one was a little bit off. Maybe there's a few extra grains. Also, pelletized powder is not always exactly the same, unfortunately, although super convenient. So when you use the fire stick, you're getting the same load, which is factory loaded. Again, like I said, so you're getting that same consistency. You're getting the same load every single time. It's impervious to moisture, which is huge for muzzle loading. You don't have to worry about moisture or weather or anything like that because it is sealed. A great aspect to this whole project and kind of where we, really hold it in such high regard is the safety of it. You can't double load your firearm. The fire stick only fits in one way. You can see the charge. You can also easily uncharge your gun if you're getting in and out of a tree stand, getting in and out of a vehicle. And you just simply take it out, put it in your pocket, and then when you're on to your next thing, you just put it back in. It is one and done, so I do want to make that clear. They're not reusable, but that's, kind of a nice feature. You just shoot it and you're done. Or at the end of the day, if you don't shoot your gun, you don't have to run out your powder or shoot off your firearm. You can just simply take it out and set it aside for the next day. So there's a lot of advantages to the technology. Safety, ease of use, more reliability. Again, seating that bullet in the same spot every single time just really translates to better downrange accuracy. So with the nitrofire and fire stick, it just took muzzleloading to the next level. It just really allowed people possibly that were intimidated by black powder. As somebody who is a side lock enthusiast, there probably is a lot of questions sometimes about what powder do I use? How much is too much? Is this safe? And I think it does turn possibly some people off to the category. So this really allowed people, and we heard this firsthand from consumers. We knew it on our end, of course, but we heard from consumers, wow, this product allows me to get into black powder because I feel like it's safer, it's easier to use, I have less questions, I have to buy less stuff. You need a lot less accessories to function in this, type of technology. So it makes it easier. And that just allows, again, people to get out in the field and be open to a muzzleloader season or a muzzleloader tag, add another, deer to their freezer. So we were very proud to just work on this project and be part of the technology and be on the forefront of it. And then that allowed us to say, hey, okay, what's the next step? Where do we go with this? And that was into a bolt action platform, which is the Nitro Bolt. People have asked me, well, why the Nitro Bolt over the Nitro Fire, which is our break action platform? Bolt action firearms are some of the most accurate firearms on the planet. That's why snipers use them. That's why, shooters use them. So it's just inherently by design, going to be a little bit more accurate. It's all one solid piece as opposed to the break action, which has a little bit of pivot just because it has to be able to open and close. So just a different style, just a different option for people. I hunted with the Nitro Bolt this past October in Oklahoma, and I'm a convert. I didn't think I could like anything more than the Nitro Fire, and I do. I am a huge convert to the bolt action muzzleloader. So the Nitro Bolt, it's a very exciting product for us.
So it sounds like, we talk a lot about recruitment, retention. We need to continue to recruit hunters and replace hunters that are aging out and all that. This sounds like a great opportunity to, one, recruit new hunters to to maybe an area of hunting that they're not familiar with. It's another product that you can expand current hunters, the additional opportunities, additional methods. And then a big one for us is, what do you do? Our hunter demographics aging. They're in their, mid 60s on average now. So how do you keep them hunting a few more years? But a couple of questions I've got are, is it black powder in the fire stick, or is it a smokeless powder, or?
It's not smokeless. It's called Hodgdon 888. It is a loose powder inside of that fire stick. It's very similar to like a Blackhorn 209. So it's going to burn cleaner, which is great for cleanup. Still have to clean up your firearm, so I don't want to mince words here. But it does burn cleaner. So it's very similar. If people are familiar with like Blackhorn 209, it'd be very similar to that.
Okay. And the other question, I think, because Connecting Conservation is about the business of conservation, is a lot of people may or may not know this, but muzzleloaders are actually a taxable product. There's an excise tax associated with that. Just even though you can buy them without a 4473, you can have them shipped to your door. You still pay excise tax on it, so you contribute directly to the conservation business.
Yes, we absolutely do. So across the board on that. Some muzzleloaders like the Nitro Fire and the Nitro Bolt do require 4473. So those, I just want to be clear that those cannot be shipped direct to a consumer. But our other ones can, for the most part, depending on your state, of course. But yeah, we pay into FET. We pay FET on every firearm we sell, whether it's a side lock or a Nitro Fire or even on our center fire line, all of that. So we definitely contribute to that.
And that's, again, we try to almost over communicate the fact that hunters, anglers, trappers, and shooters, the people that are out there buying these products, whether they know it or not, combined, it's, $1.5 billion a year. So whether it's a muzzleloader, a lure, or a bow and arrow, or a handgun, all those things pay a portion of that go back to those state DNRs. They'll manage the wildlife. They'll buy more land for more access, build shooting ranges, boat docks, all sorts of stuff. So it's an important, really important topic. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to your state DNRs or Google the Pittman-Robertson Act and just learn about how conservation is funded and spread the word. That's one thing that, we really want folks to know about. But going back to the topic at hand, and two things I've always liked about muzzleloaders. One, far more accurate than I always, heard. You watch the old war movies and nobody's hitting anybody, but now, it's accurate and getting more accurate, and it makes you think about your shot because you only got one shot. It makes you be more accurate, and then it also allows for an extended hunting season. So if I need one more, deer for my freezer, or if I happen to see, a larger buck that that would be nice to get an extra chance at that, and then the regular season has ended, like in Connecticut, as you get an extended season for hunting muzzleloaders. But the one thing that I don't like about anything to do with guns is cleaning them. So I got a little excited when you said something about the Nitro Fire, but you still said you got to clean it, because I've learned my lesson. If you don't clean a muzzleloader, you got a problem, right? So talk a little bit about, I guess, the make sure the cleaning process between the different types of muzzleloaders that you guys sell and the importance of cleaning.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, technology's come a long way. Some of these different powders are cleaner burning, like I said, the Blackhorn 209, the Hodgdon 888, which is in the Fire Stick. So it does help. But you have to do your due diligence always. You have to make sure. The nice part about like the Fire Stick technology too, like I think I kind of touched upon before, is that if you don't shoot or you can just take out your Fire Stick. You don't have any powder sitting directly in your barrel if you haven't fired the gun. You can just simply take it out. So makes cleaning a heck of a lot easier that way. So
Well, that's an important point because a lot of for muzzleloaders, the more historical muzzleloaders where they load the powder through the barrel, black powder is corrosive, whether you fire it or not. If it's sitting in that barrel, it's already acting on that metal. So you should unload your muzzleloader every time you come out of the field. If you don't, you're really not doing it. You're not doing a service to your firearm because it's sitting there in your gun safe. If it's still got that load in it, you're not going to get it out and after a few months because it's going to corrode everything up. Unlike smokeless, which is pretty inert until it's fired. So cool. Well, a question about how so obviously this is sort of newer technology in muzzleloaders. How are states receiving this? The most states allow the fire stick type muzzleloaders during their permanent weapon season, or sort of mixed bag?
yeah, so obviously when we came out with this was brand new technology. States had to take the time to take a look at it and see, does it fit into our current regulations? Do we need to change state verbiage? How does that work? COVID happened right around the same time. So if COVID hadn't happened, I do think things would have progressed a little more quickly. But I do think Traditions and Federal have done an amazing job with this product. Right now, the Fire Stick is legal in 27 states' muzzleloader seasons, and we're continuing to work on that. As I'm sure you know, John, some states might take years to make a reg change. It's just part of their process. And I don't think people always realize that sometimes it's not as just easy as changing something online. It does take some time. It does take conversations. Traditions and Federal have both worked hard to go visit with local states, the DNR, the Game and Fish. Traditions was just at the Congressional Sportsman's NASC Summit in November, where we did a demo of the Fire Stick, and it allowed over 30 states in attendance to see the technology in action. So even if we, hadn't been able to get out to them, they were able to see it. So I think that does make a big difference, and we've got more states coming on board. I feel very confident we'll turn some states green this year. So I just want everybody to know we are still working on that. But if your state is not legal for this technology, write to your DNR, write to your Game and Fish. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from people who live and hunt in the state that they should review this technology. It is safer. It is easier to use. When we talk about shot placement and all that, this definitely allows you to make better shots because you're not facing, oh, did I get any moisture in my barrel, what's my load like. It really tones down some of that, where you can make sure you're having a reliable, confident shot.
Yeah, and historically, firearms, there wasn't a lot of advancement. It wasn't the quickest, area that there's something new every year, but now all of a sudden there's a lot of new products, and not only, now there's some crossover type of products out there, and I'm amazed at the new product that you guys came out with a couple years ago, the crack shot. So you think you're gonna have to explain that whole thing to the audience on that one, because it's a mind blower.
Sure, yeah. So the crack shot is personally one of my favorite projects. I just love the product. I just think it works amazing, and I just think it's so cool. So the Crackshot XBR is our arrow launching rifle. It is not powered by air. It is powered by what we call an XBR power load. Very similar to like a blank or a primer. It looks very similar to like a primer is how I would describe it. It is a proprietary load that we have made for the XBR, but how it works is it comes as a 22 caliber single shot rifle. Again, paying those FET dollars. And then in the package, you also get the arrow launching barrel. So you can take the 22 barrel off, swap the arrow launching barrel on, and then you take our 22 inch, our 16 inch aluminum arrow, and you put it down the barrel. There's an inner barrel and then there's a shroud on the outside, and the arrow goes all the way down. and then you break open the gun, you put in your XPR power load, and then you fire the gun, and those gases travel down, they hit on the end of your broadhead or your field tip, and it pulls it down range, as opposed to like a compound bow or a crossbow pushing it from behind. The product came about because we were thinking how we could make something that would be more user friendly for someone who's disabled or has upper body limitations. The crossbow began basically for people who are disabled, and it's not always as easy for somebody with upper body strength limitations to crank a crossbow or to pull up on a crossbow. This is very simple to use, very low recoil. It's just an outstanding product. It isn't legal yet in any state for big game hunting or turkey hunting. We are working on it. We have a couple of states we're speaking with right now about possibly getting it legalized. And we feel like once we get a couple states on board, it will enable the other states to look at what they wrote for verbiage, look at what they did, and possibly put in the technology. But we use it right now for states where you can hunt hog or predator by any means. Again, just a super cool product. I love it. Maybe we can run some B-roll or put up something on it, but I think it's cool when someone sees it because they're like, "What is that?" So,
yeah, it sounds like a great product. We one of our big concerns is we have an aging demographic of hunters. Hunters are, we joke about them, although Jim and I fitness categories. Hunters are largely stale, pale, and male. They're white, older men. And, that group, which is a large group that we have, a large segment of our hunting population are now in their late 50s, early 60s, in some cases late 60s. And in 4 to 5, 6 years, they're going to start aging out and quit hunting, largely because, they can't use the equipment anymore, or they lose people to go with them, or they lose the ability to get into certain areas or use certain weapons. So this sounds to me like a great time extender for some of these, older hunters that want to stay in the field a few more years. Because they don't have to worry about cranking a crossbow crank, or they don't have to worry about, some of the other factors. And plus, in many cases, I would assume it might be, I don't know how the states would factor it into a season, whether it be considered an archery season or a primitive weapon season or a modern firearm season for that thing, because it sort of checks all three boxes depending on what you're looking at.
for sure. Yeah, and that's definitely going to be up to the state. Traditions is here to help answer questions, to demo it. If any states are listening and you're interested, let us know. We're happy to come out and demo it for you guys and go over the technology and the product and see where you think it might fit. To that point, too, I did just want to mention that Traditions is also doing threaded barrels on some of our muzzleloaders, which allows you to put a muzzle brake on it, which does help reduce recoil. So that may buy some people some time in the field if they're a diehard muzzleloader enthusiast, but they just can't take some of the recoil. So that is another thing that Traditions is doing that I think might help that category as well.
Well, I took a sip of my coffee, got all sidetracked there. So there's a lot of different, right? You got a lot of different product lines, and a consumer can purchase firearms a couple different ways, depending on if it's a muzzleloader or a traditional firearm. I say traditional, now I'm getting confused because they're traditions. But I'm going to pass it over to you so you can explain that after I've confused everybody. How do you have the purchase options?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely many ways to purchase products. A local dealer is a great avenue to go down. You can pick up the product. You can have that conversation with the guy at the counter. Big box retailers as well. You can go in and buy there. Online retailers are another one that we sell, another avenue we sell to. A lot of them can ship to an FFL near you. Some states can purchase direct from us as well. We try to really funnel people through dealers and distributors because we just really feel that that's the best way to go. But for those that do want to do that, they can purchase direct on our website as well. Depending on the state, of course, there are some states that we can't ship direct to, and certain products we can't ship direct to a consumer, but it's readily available and it's very easy to get into muzzleloading or to learn about our products at all different levels of purchasing.
Right. So you don't need to go to a store and fill out a 4473 and get the background check for a muzzleloader.
Depending on the product, Nitro Fire and Nitro Bolt both do require 4473.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. It's a little foggy. I was trying to remember the way the law was actually constructed, and I can remember the part about it. If it uses an explosive to, send a projectile downrange, basically. That's how air rifles are not considered firearms, because they use compressed air versus explosives. So I'm like, okay, but muzzleloader, I think there's something that addresses muzzleloaders if you load, if all the components go from the barrel end versus, the nitro fire where actually the powder and primer are going in from the breech end. So I'm assuming that maybe the difference is as far as whether it's requires a 4473.
Yeah, when we introduced the technology to ATF, that was how they ruled the product. It's a firearm. It is how they do it. So it does require that step of the 4473. So that's just how they ruled it. So that's
Yep. And we understand that, and that's not a problem these days. I mean, there's tons of FFLs around in all the different stores, so it's not hard to get your hands on a product if you need it. So.
All right. Well, in addition to paying an excise tax, and supporting conservation that way, is Traditions or Allison, are you, part of any other organizations like the nonprofit conservation groups out there? Are you guys working with any of those folks at all, or?
Yes, absolutely. Traditions really has worked very hard the last several years and even beyond that, but we've had such a focus on it the last several years. We work with Ducks Unlimited. We do a special program for them where each chapters can purchase product at a discounted price to benefit what they do. We've worked with RMEF in the past. We're working with Congressional Sportsmen's now. But I do think all of that benefits in the long run conservation as well. So what they're doing, I think, does help to protect what we do. So we're working with them. We went to their summit in the fall, and we're looking forward to helping them in the future. We do work on like sustainable packaging, different things like that I do think benefits conservation in the long run. Maybe not in terms of dollars, but in terms of how that stuff ends up, where it ends up. So we are working on those. We have changed a lot of our packaging and always continue to work on those initiatives. And we're open. If there's a conservation group that's listening that thinks Traditions would be a good fit for them, we're totally open to working with anyone and everyone. Traditions is highly supportive of conservation, the industry, our shooting and hunting rights as sportsmen. So we really want to be as impactful as we can. So if there's something we should be doing, let us know.
So, and just so you know, we do count your packaging as a conservation. I mean, look at Jim's wall there behind him, his fill a bag while filling your tag promotion. And we, sportsmen and women, when they go to the field, they take care of, for the most part, they take care of what they enjoy and what they love. They pick up after themselves. They pick up after other people. They make sure they close gates. And so all that's a part of the package. And it's, the unsung message here is that, let 5% of the population participates in, hunting and recreational shooting. And they pay for the majority of conservation in this country. So clean water, clean air, healthy wildlife, healthy environment is all, largely paid for by hunter purchases, licenses, permits, and equipment.
All right. So thank you so much for coming on, Allison. I mean, great topic. I mean, muzzleloader's been around forever, but there's been so many great advancements that, you educated us a little bit on. But if people want more information on Traditions or the product line, where should they go?
Yeah, they can go to traditionsfirearms.com. That has all of our products, how-to videos, so much information there. We also have Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Those are our three main social channels, and they can get the links right there on our website. Going to your local dealer, too, is a great way to learn about our products.
Alison, we appreciate you being on. It's always fascinating to talk to industry folks, and I'm really excited about your products. But I was telling Jim, I've got to be careful because doing one of these a week, I keep buying new products every time I hear something interesting. Just bought a suppressor last week after an interview or podcast, and now I got to get a Traditions loader. So I'm excited about it because I always like new guns anyway. But we appreciate you being on, and thank you for all that Traditions does for conservation, helping fund what we all love and enjoy. So, and to our listeners, please continue to listen, download our podcast, subscribe if you can. That way you'll get notifications when the new ones drop, and we'll see you in the woods or on the water.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Connecting with Conservation podcast. Please do us a favor and tell your buddies, friends, family, and others about what you've learned here today. If you like what you heard, come on back anytime and listen to another episode of the Connecting with Conservation podcast.